I like my little Tigurius Kitbash, but I think he's a little bit lonely, so let's make a whole kill team of Ultramarines that have somehow been infected by the Tyranids and have joined the hive mind. Let's start simple, something of a big gun like this, and I like this one in particular because this still looks kind of metallic and I could make it a sort of flesh metal meld, a weird combination of the two, just how I would like to make the Ultramarines look like they're a weird combination of human and Tyranid. And big guns go on big Marines. That's why the heavy intercessor. And I think I'm gonna get this body or that body and just give him a big ass gun. Let's work on that one first. Madness. I love it. Look at him. Massive gun. It works with the other arm as well. It's now just done with some poster putty, but a little bit of glue, a little bit of green stuff to fill out his shoulders, and then the shoulder pads on top to sort of cover up the connection over there. And we've got our first heavy gunner done. He just needs a head, but I'm going to get to the heads at the end because I got to figure out how to make them look not too much like a Space Marine, not too much like Tyranids in Space Marine armor. I just want to start working on, what shall we do? Something fast and nimble. And if we're talking fast and nimble, what's better than a couple of Tyranid legs? I mean, if the hive mind wants you to be fast and nimble, it will give you legs that make you fast and nimble. And so now I gotta see if I can find a Space Marine body that I can fit on top of these legs. And who better than the Phobos Lieutenant with that Tyranid bits and pieces on his shoulder? I mean, that's what you get. You should purge the Xenos, cleanse the planet of them. Don't keep trophies, don't put bits of it on your armor. This is how you get infected. So I'm gonna cut him out, get rid of his legs, and replace him with these nice Tyranid legs instead. Now I'm just gonna be rough and simple and just keep cutting parts of his leg off until I think it's good enough and I can fit those Tyranid legs onto the torso. Like that. I mean, it's Tyranids. I can use green stuff, I can make skin and flesh and sort of fit it all together anyway. So it doesn't matter if I cut off a little bit too much. I think I can fix it afterwards. Now he's gonna get glued together. I've just gotta get rid of this trophy as well, and that one will go into the bits box because I think it's pretty cool, one of those nails. Maybe I'll glue it back onto him when I've got the room for it, but I need to get rid of it just to get this leg up here. And then the other leg should go somewhere on here, but I gotta say, it's starting to look a bit silly. So I think I'm better off just slicing off everything below his belly button and instead put him on top of the legs. So let's see how that works. There, much better. This is something that I can work with. I just have to remake his crotch with a little bit of green stuff, kind of make it look a bit more fleshy without turning it into something Slaneshy. And then he needs some arms and, like I said, nimble, so he needs something fast, something quick, like a whip, like this. I like it, a Tyranid warrior's whip, and I just have to clip off the shoulder socket and half of the bicep and it will fit right in there, I think. And then he needs something for the other side, but I really like the shoulder pad that he has with the pieces of Tyranid on there. And like I said, it kind of gives you the story that these guys, they have been messing with the hive mind. They've been collecting Xenos samples and something has gone horribly, horribly wrong and now they're all infected. But it's cool if it looks like he used to be quite good at killing Xenos. He got his trophies and now his trophies have gotten him. So we give him this one over here and then let's see what I can do with that nice shoulder pad that he has. This one here with the Tyranid carapace on there. And since this is a push fit miniature, there's only one way that it will go on there and it's always a little bit fiddly to figure out how exactly it goes on there. But I have to stick to this if I want to keep it push fit, but I think it's okay. I think like this I can give him a pose that kind of makes sense. I just want to get rid of his hand and replace that blade with, I don't know, this thing from the Acolyte Hybrids kit of the Genestealer Cults. Perfect sort of box for all kinds of Tyranid bits and pieces. So I just have to snip this one off at the wrist and snip this hand off at the wrist as well. And we'll glue them together and it looks like this. I think I need to assemble his legs to really make you guys see what I'm working with here, because right now it's a little bit goofy. But he looks like he's fast moving, he looks quite nimble and quick. He has the weapons for it, a dagger, even though it's fused to his hand, and a whip, again, fused to his hand. Let's glue them all together. There we go. Now, the green stuff still needs to dry. I need to sculpt it and clean it up a little bit more, but I think it'll be okay. It'll be okay. As long as I sort of make it a fleshy pattern or a sort of overgrown flesh pattern, I think it'll look okay. He has this nice knife that's fused with his hand and whip as well. I think we've got him pretty much done. He needs a little backpack and another head. but I'm gonna wait with the heads until the very end so I can better figure out what I'm gonna do with the heads, because I'm still not sure what I want. I have these Tyranid warriors, I have Genestealer cult heads, I have Space Marine helmets, of course, and since I don't know what to do, I'm just gonna ignore it until I know what I want. So we're moving on to the next one, and I think we need something with wings. And I just so happen to have these Hive Tyrant wings. At least I believe it's a Hive Tyrant. I mean, this is the Leviathan box set that I'm working with. I think they look cool, very Tyranidy. I have some other wings that are more bat-like, which I could also use if this turns out to be too big. But I like these because I could make an Inceptor. So another Gravis Armor Marine, like the heavy gun, but then with wings. And I think that could be really cool to not make it a shooty guy, not like the Inceptors are, but give him massive scything talons like the Hive Tyrant, make him a melee, Gravis Armor, flying Marine. I think that sounds epic. So the Inceptor body is done, and I gotta figure out how I'm gonna put these wings onto him, because I think over here somewhere might be a good fit. I want them to kind of stick out above him, make it look like he's coming down, and then he needs some big nasty claws as well. But with these wings up here, they're gonna be hard to fit. I think I'm gonna have to do some actual pinning, but this will give a little bit of an idea of what it will look like. And I already think this isn't going to work, because now it just looks like these wings are coming out of his head. That's not going to work. So they need to go lower. They need to go towards his shoulders over here. And they can still sort of swing up, make it look like he's landing like this. I think this is a pretty cool look. Now some nasty big claws coming out from the front. And it's going to be these two from the Hive Tyrant as well. I think they're nice, they're vicious, and I think they will fit perfectly onto this Gravis armor. Here we go, like that. I think I can make this work with a little bit of green stuff, make it look like some flesh is growing out of his shoulders. He won't have shoulder pads, but I think that doesn't matter too much. If you have claws like this, who needs shoulder pads? And I really like the hollow part of his head over there. It's kind of like you're staring death in the face if he's sort of without a face. So maybe I should just put him, give him his proper helmet, the Inceptor helmet that closes off his face. I think I like the idea of making it just super dark in there. Let's see. Well, turns out that doesn't work, because if you want to put that helmet in there, you have to put it in first before you glue everything together. Hey, live and learn. So I just got some of the neophytes, not the neophytes, the acolyte hybrid heads, and I think they're pretty cool. They look Tyranidy, but they're still human enough. So I'm just going to put a couple of heads on these guys, because I feel they're not finished without the heads, of course. So let's make them look more like Tyranids. Okay, they got all their heads in place. We got the flyer over here with something like a Hive Tyrant head. The guy with the whip gets a tongue, because I think that's kind of on brand for him. And then the dude with the cannon gets something like a more reinforced plate on the front of his head. I'm quite happy with these three guys. It's time for the fourth member, and after that the fifth member. The reason why they are so infected. But the fourth member first, I'm thinking of a kind of, I don't know, Blade Guard veteran, a Terminator kind of miniature, sword and shield, somebody that is on the front line taking all the hits. And what better than to base it off the Terminator captain from the Leviathan box. I'm just quickly gonna assemble this guy, but without his arms, of course. He needs Tyranid arms, and I've been looking through my sprues, and I think I got what I want. First of all, we got a nice bone sword for his right arm. Definitely a good fit, because like I said, I want sword and shield here. But I also found these claws here, and I think that would be a nice third arm for him. You know, why not give him 3 arms? Kind of works for a captain, right? For somebody who should be kind of leading the squad. And then for the shield, I got this thing over here. I got this massive carapace that comes from the Leviathan set as well. And I think that would be a really cool shield for him to walk around with. And maybe have it sort of fused to an arm, so that it is actually part of his arm and not a shield that he's holding. Let's see, first the fighting arms, first the blade and maybe a claw, and then we'll get to the shield. But let's do the fighty bits first. Now I snipped off those little nubs that they use for the easy assembly, and I'm also going to clean up the shoulder pad a little bit on the inside, so there's more space for the 2 arms to come out of there, because you have 2 arms, you need to have a lot of space there. So now I can also post the shoulder pad much more sideways and give a lot more room for the arms to go in there. So let's get some poster putty over here and see if I can actually fit this. I think I need to clip the arm off a little bit more because the shoulders on a Terminator are kind of inside the suit and not outside it. It's a bit of a weird position. And like this, I think the arm is sticking out too much. Now I've got to angle these arms downward, of course, because otherwise the shoulder pad doesn't really fit on there. But something like this. And then his other arm kind of wedged underneath it like this. And now he has two arms on one side. And it's time to start working on the other side. Now, I like this claw too much to use it here and just have it hidden by the shield. So instead I'm going for this arm here. And I think it's a better fit anyway, because this way I can sort of meld it together. If it had a claw at the end, then it would still be kind of like holding the shield. I want his shield to be his arm, because that's kind of Tyranid. Now this whole chunk over here, this needs to be removed because it needs a little bit more space to fit properly. So I'm just going to clip all of this clear. And then with a bit of poster putty, this is what we've got. I think he looks pretty epic. He just needs a face. Of course, once more, provided by the gene stealer called Hybrids. This one with a nice barbed tongue. I guess he can use that when he's close at you. Give you a little lick and see what happens next. So the shield, I still need to figure out how I'm going to do this, because I can't put a glob of poster putty there to finish it off. I'm going to use some green stuff, put the arm in place, and then I'm going to try something I've never done before. And this is a bit crazy, but I read it online on fantasygames.com, a blog about kitbashing and so on. So it must work, right? I got a Tupperware lid. I'm gonna add a load of PVA glue. Just make it a nice smooth layer all over, like this. And then pop it in the microwave for about 20 seconds. And it will come out looking like this. Pretty nasty. It kind of looks like skin that is sort of fusing together. Great for demon skin, but also fantastic for this idea that I have, where I'm melding the arm and the shield together. I just gotta let this cool off a little bit, and then I can kind of cut out a piece, peel it off, and glue it onto the arm with a bit of super glue all around, and then I can drape it on there. I'm just using my knife here. Maybe I should get some nice tweezers for this, but something like this. And then I'll cut it to size, and it will look like this flesh melding together the arm and the shield. And since I have so much of this left, I'm going to use it on my little Phobos lieutenant as well, because that green stuff, it doesn't look good. And I'm not good at sculpting, so this way I can cut a little strip and just wrap it around his waist and make it look like the legs are kind of melded together with the suit. Now, I don't like this piece. Let's take a different piece. This one over here. So, Terminator Captain is done. I like his shield arm. It's still separate, so it's easy for me to just paint his armor and then glue on his shield arm. But I think this looks pretty epic. This looks pretty cool. It's really nasty. A sort of shield that grows out of his arm. A beautiful bulwark, and he can lead the charge. Now, I got 4 kill team members here. I got a flying guy. I got my Terminator that's up front. I got the fast Phobos guy with the whip. And I got a heavy gunner with a massive gun. Now, how did these guys get so infected? What went wrong? How did this happen? Who's responsible for this? The apothecary Biologus. I mean, collecting Tyranid samples for research, what a bright idea. But if something goes wrong, you're screwed. So, I got him over here, his body, his arm, his backpack, everything's there except for the right arm for him. I want to change this into something more Tyranid-y, and I want something that still makes him look like a apothecary. Some needles, something to operate with, something to inject stuff with. So let's see what we got. So over here we got this little nice claw with a massive long finger and a long nail on it. I think that could sort of double as a syringe for injecting more Tyranid nastiness into other beings. It's a little frail little arm, and I think he could do with a second arm on there or something else. Something like this arm over here that has a big nasty curved blade on it. Perfect for some field surgery by the apothecary that has been infected a bit with Tyranid nastiness. Now, those are 2 arms for his right side, but I kind of want to make him add these massive hooked things on the back, kind of like a Fabius Bile. He walks around with this whole apothecary setup. This guy has a little bit on his side, but that's not Tyranid enough. So let's give him 2 massive hooked, nasty tentacle blades that come out of his back. Something like this. Now he has 2 massive claws to hold the patient in place, a bone saw over here, some injector over there. He's looking pretty Tyranid-y. The only thing is, I want to tell a little bit more of a story with this mini, that this sort of container burst open and something came out of it. Now, I still got my PVA skin goop over here, so I think I can make it look like something's grown out over this and sort of burst the windows, grew up and attached to his arm. And that way, tell a little bit of story, like something was in there, things didn't go right, and now the whole kill team is infected. So I have that canister now kind of covered in super glue, and I'm just gonna wrap this around and start ripping pieces off, because I feel like if you cut it out of this sort of slab that I have, it is way too straight edged and it is not looking organically enough anymore. But like this, I can make it kind of go up and wrap it around his arm and then rip pieces off here. And it's sticky. I need to learn how to work with this. This is the first time I'm doing this, so it is all new to me as well. But I think it is a pretty cool concept, and thanks to fantasygames.com for showing me how to do this, because it's gonna save me a lot of time with sculpting nasty demon flesh as well later on. There we go. His arm is being overgrown straight from the canister, and now it's time for the last touch, his head. And I'm taking again from the Acolyte hybrids, but the one with the big brain, for the guy with the bright ideas to start collecting Tyranid samples. And he is going to fit right there, like that. And with that, my 5-man kill team infected by Tyranids is done, and it's time to start painting all of them. Nope, they're not. I was looking at all 4 or 5 of them and they looked cool, except for this guy. I think he's just a little bit too boring, too much marine and too little Tyranid. So I got these little tentacles here from, again, the Leviathan box set, and I think I can sort of squeeze them in here between his head and the armor and just make him look a little bit more mutated and make him look a little bit more like Tyranid. So I'm just going to glue these 2 over here, and let's see the result right there. I think that looks a bit better, a bit more Tyranid-y and a bit more in line with the amount of mutations that the other guys in the kill team have. So finally time to paint them. And of course I'm making them Ultramarines, and first they are primed with grey cere, a very basic sort of light grey, almost white base coat that Games Workshop recommends for your contrast paints. And then we're gonna get going with some contrast Ultramarines blue. Then I apply some decals, and then with a sharp hobby knife I scratch out parts of the decals to make it look battle worn. And you know, if you've been infected with the Tyranid nastiness that these guys have been infected with, you probably don't get the support of the Mechanicum and your servitors anymore. So then we continue painting, and I'm gonna give the armor a wash with Nuln Oil, followed by a little dabbing of Typhus Corrosion here and there on the armor, because you know, no support, so this is gonna rust out like hell. And then I dry brush the rusty spots a little bit with some Skrag Brown to make it stand out just a little bit more. And that is followed by a dry brush of Stormhost Silver for a bit of battle damage and also to pick out the rust a bit more. And it's time for the gold details. Again, very simple. First, a little bit of Retributor Armour, a wash of Reikland Fleshshade, and a very, very light dry brush of a little Stormhost Silver, just to make it shine a little bit more, but also to make it look like even the gold is flaking off and getting damaged. We're getting close to finishing the armor, and I'm almost going to start working on the flesh, but there's just one little step left to do, and that is all the hoses, the piping, but also these parts here behind his knee. I'm going to paint them all black with some black Templar so that there's still a little bit of a highlight in there. Now, of course, I want to do a bit of a Leviathan paint scheme for the skin, but I don't want to make it completely Tyranid. They are a human or Space Marine Tyranid blend. So let's see how I can get this done. But first I'm gonna do some contrast, a dreadful visage all over the bits that are Tyranid-y. Doesn't matter if it's a armor carapace or just fleshy or some sack like he has here. It all just gets this little purple tint first. And then to give it more of a human skin tone, I'm gonna wash it with some Reikland Fleshshade. And then finally a little bit of a dry brush of Cadian Fleshtone, just to bring out those rosy cheeks a little bit more. And after this, it's time for all the bits of hardened carapace, and I'm gonna go over this with some contrast shyish purple, followed by a dry brush of demonette hide, just to hit the ridges. Now I feel there's not enough purple in the skin, so I'm just taking some Druchii Violet and I'm gonna put some in the recesses and sort of the most worst, nastiest bits of skin that they have on them, and anywhere where it touches the carapace as well. I've skipped a few of the detailing steps in the meantime, and it's time to do some basing, but the details, let's go over them really quickly. So the cloak, Blood Angels red, dry brushed with some Evil Sun scarlet, white for the parchments and the bone parts, the swords and so on, because I want to make them stand out very clearly. A little bit of Blood Angels red on the purity seals as well. And now for the base, I'm first going to get some Armageddon dust on there. And then a bit of basing material. I just put some PVA glue on the base, drag it through this material over here, and ready to go to the next step. Streaking grime, and of course it goes on the base to make that more grimy and dusty and dirty, but also on the Marines. And so that's why I'm using the Apothecary here, because it's nice and visible. He gets a wash of the streaking grime all over, and I'm gonna make the legs, the feet look more dirty than the upper parts, because that makes sense, right? Dirt sort of settles on the lower parts of the body and not so much on the upper parts. And I'm gonna keep this away from the Tyranid bits. This is just to make the armor look more nasty and dirty. And after this, a couple of flowers and some greenery from Gamer's Grass to finish the base, and then it's time for blood effects. And we're gonna do 3 stages. First, some blood spatter with zombie gore from Tooth Coats. This is a darker version than blood for the blood god. And how you do this is with a brush like this, flat headed brush and a toothpick, and you're just gonna try to flick some blood onto the miniature. And after this, we're gonna do some more deliberate blood painting. And we continue with the same zombie core and a very fine brush. And anywhere where there's a pretty big droplet like here, I'm just going to drag it down a little bit. And that way it looks like the blood is spattered there, but it's running down. Because you know, if blood hits a steel piece of armor, it's going to droop down. If it hits cloth, it's going to soak in. If it's skin, it might run down as well. And this way you get a little bit more realistic blood effects. And I really like the zombie gore for this. I think the darker blood looks much better than the sort of bright red blood for the blood god, especially for blood spatter, because they're usually a little bit older, you know, they're not so fresh. And if you want to get this as well, I'll put a link in the description below to get your own pot, because I think it's a really great addition. Next to blood for the blood god, it's really good to have a little bit of extra color in your blood effects. Now, this isn't all we're doing some more. After this comes some blood streaks on the actual weapons to make them look like they've been used very recently. And again, this is the zombie thirst, and I'm just making these sort of dry brushing motions against the direction that the blade would go. And I'll also use this for the whip and the talons and everything else that these Xenos Marines use to hack and saw and make their way through the opponents. After this, we're gonna do some real gore effects. And for this gore, we're gonna mix some very basic Uhu glue with some blood for the blood god. Or in my case, I used the Tooth Coats blood. It's the same stuff, but this one is the bright kind, so not the dark kind that I used before to paint on. And we're just gonna mix this. I'm using this sort of empty lid over here to mix this together. And then I can start making some streaks all over this mini and try to get some strings of blood going from up here to down there and make these nice gory details like that, like strings of blood, entrails that are still sticking to these claws. And I'm going to do this on all of these minis because they definitely deserve a little bit of blood and gore. And then the miniatures look like this, and I'm really happy with the result. I think these look amazing. They look gory, they look nasty, they look truly infected by Tyranid material. These Space Marines are no longer fighting for the Emperor, they are with the hive mind now. And the Apothecary Biologus, he's really the leader of the team. He got infected first. Something broke through that canister where he's getting these Tyranid samples, infected him, and then it spread through the rest of the team. I love it. I like the conversions. I like the paint scheme. It's good enough. It's not Golden Demon worthy, but hey, this looks pretty cool. And the skin, the PVA skin, putting glue in a microwave sounds like an extremely stupid thing to do, but it worked out quite all right, especially the Biologus. I think that bit of skin works out really nicely. The Phobos Lieutenant, I think it's not great there, but I need more experience with this. This was the very first time trying this. I think it would be great for demon skin. I'm gonna see how can I make another Kitbash with PVA skin, or maybe I can use it for basing material, like put a skin floor, like something really nasty, gory. I think it could work for like a shrine to Nurgle, actually. I think as the ground floor for a shrine to Nurgle, this could be really cool. Or something with Night Lords, you know, skin flaps, skin bits, skin banners. It's really up to the Night Lords. I think maybe I should. There's so many ideas I have, so many Kitbashes I want to do. If you want to see any of them, you gotta subscribe. And in the meantime, check out this video next.